Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Susie, I'd have been down here earlier, but I couldn't start without you. I'm going to cover three different cases today. I'm going to start with the most serious case. We worked a joint investigation with the Haines City Police Department, and it began last Friday morning at midnight. An 81-year-old victim. Did you hear me? She was 81 years old, heard her dog barking. So she went to see what her dog was barking about, and there was a man standing at her back door, totally clothed in dark clothes. He had a face mask on that was described as kind of yellow, with a dark shirt, dark pants, and gloves. He forcefully broke into her back door. She had 3 separate locks on that door. He still broke into the door. He took her to her bedroom where he forcefully had sex with her, sexually battered her. Then he asked her, "Where's the money and the pills?" This was after his initial break-in, where he absolutely grabbed her by the throat and took her to the bedroom. Then he made her get in the bathtub and wash. And he didn't think that she washed well enough, so he washed her again. He told her, "Don't make me hurt you real bad." She said, "I was scared for my life. I thought I was going to die." She stayed in the bathroom an hour after he left, and then she called and the Haines City Police Department, and ultimately the sheriff's office arrived. We started working this case around the clock, and I know some of you asked why we were doing a Crime Stoppers, and we were very elusive with our information. And the reason for that is simple. We didn't want our suspect to know what we knew or what we didn't know at that point in the investigation. By the way, we talked to this suspect several times during this investigation. Our detectives and the Haines City Police detectives worked as if this 81-year-old victim was our mother. When we gathered the physical evidence at the scene, we called Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and we said, "We have an emergency request. We have an 81-year-old female who is the victim of a home invasion sexual battery, where he threatened her with extreme violence, where he ripped open the back door, where he was totally covered, and we have got to get this thing solved as soon as possible." FDLE and their supervisor in charge of the lab, Donna Wallace, immediately began investigating this and processing evidence as if it was their mother. I can't say enough good things about the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the speed with which they operated. We got a positive hit. Here's your vicious rapist, Julio Ruiz. He, by the way, had a wife at home and 4 children. His wife was pregnant with their 5th child. The detectives, when they talked to him throughout the investigation, said he was calm, cool, gave absolutely no indication that we would suspect him or should suspect him of anything. In fact, his dad owns a used car lot in the area, and he actually, as I understand, helped us pull the video from the car lot. But DNA says unequivocally, without any doubt, that his DNA was in the 81-year-old victim's bed. Do you know what's interesting about that? He absolutely wouldn't talk to us other than to say, "I have never, ever, ever even been in the yard or been in the house." And we go, "Okay, we like that." Because you can't explain why your DNA was in her bed. What's interesting to note, this guy has a 38-page rap sheet from California to Pennsylvania to Florida. A 38-page rap sheet. He has 39 previous felony charges, 24 previous misdemeanor charges that date back to 1991. He's been to prison at least one time, and that's why when people want to get soft on these prison sentences, I would say it's a pretty forgiving system considering he has a 38-page rap sheet and he'd only been to prison one time. This is a bad, dangerous person. Our subsequent concern was if we didn't get whoever the suspect was locked up really quick, if you would forcefully break in to an 81-year-old lady's home, viciously rape her, and then go through all the efforts to make sure that she took a bath and she was cleaned up and threatened her, don't make me hurt you bad. What else was he capable of doing, and when would he strike next? Our detectives, when I tell you literally worked around the clock, that's what they did with the detectives from the Haines City Police Department. This guy's in prison, in jail, on his way to prison for what we hope is the rest of his life. He's a bad, bad, dangerous person. Oh, by the way, did I tell you that he was out on bond from us arresting him on a drug charge not so long ago?
Can we ask questions now?
Certainly, go ahead.
So he was going after the drugs, and why did you pick that particular person?
No, he wasn't going after the drugs. He was going after her. And he thought, as, while I'm here, I'll just take her money and any pills she has. Well, ultimately, all he took was some costume jewelry from her.
Did he have a vendetta against this poor little old lady? I mean, why would he pick out this woman?
She was available. He's a psychopath. He's very dangerous. This is the kind of person. This is the kind of person, if you don't have him in custody, he's capable of doing this horrific act and deed over and over and over again.
Was he armed?
He was not armed. But his physical size and her a frail 81-year-old sweet lady, he had the ability to do whatever he wanted to. I can't even imagine the terror, the fear this lady endured for a protracted period of time in order to stay alive.
Any other victims, do you think?
We don't know of any other victims now. We don't see any other victims locally that fit this profile, but we will be looking back through our cases, Haines City cases, and any other in the Central Florida area. But hey, this guy started in California with a criminal record, Pennsylvania with a criminal record, and Florida with a criminal record. Our goal is that it stops here and he goes to prison for the rest of his life.
Was this a random act, or did they previously know each other?
This was, he did not, she did not know him, but he lived relatively close to where she lived, within walking distance. And who knows how long he had been watching her. Now, the next one I want to talk about is one where it's like, you just can't make this stuff up. You know that I have been on a rampage about the ineffectiveness of the Department of Juvenile Justice. That doesn't come as a shock to you, I'm sure. Well, here is a young man by the name of Jamari Gardner. He's 19 years old. Jamari was 12 when his criminal arrest history began. He's been arrested on 42 previous criminal charges. Did you hear me? At 19, he's already amassed 42 previous criminal charges. 22 of them are felonies, 20 are misdemeanors. He is currently out on bond from a strong-arm robbery case where we arrested him on the 22nd of September, just 2 weeks ago. So what does Jamari do? He goes into the local store, the Family Dollar, I believe, with a gun in his waistband. Not just any gun, but a stolen gun from Hillsborough County. He walks up to the first clerk, pulls the gun out, points it at him, and says, "This is a robbery." And then he laughs and said, "Hi, I'm just kidding," and he sticks it back in his waist, and he meanders around in the store, and he gets some stuff, some small items, and he goes back to pay for them, pulls the gun out again at the second one and says, "This is a robbery." And she hesitates. He puts the gun back in his waist and wanders out. Look at this arrest record. He's 19. The majority of these crimes were when he was a juvenile. How much easier do we want to get on these juvenile thugs? This is a thug. This is a criminal. So now he's in jail facing a litany of charges to include aggravated assault, armed robbery, possession of a stolen firearm, and on and on and on. But here's the interesting part. The deputies go to work the robbery call, and they look at the videotape. "You hear me, criminals? You're being recorded." And they go, "Oh, we know that guy. That's Jamari." So our deputies just drive over to his house where he's placed under arrest. We retrieve his stolen firearm and haul him away. He's that well known to us. Think about that. 42 criminal charges from the time he was 12. And we're concerned about the little darlings. I'm concerned about the victims.
Did he get money, or was it just the stuff that he picked up in the store?
He actually paid for the stuff in the store. An attempted robbery and a robbery falls under the same statute. Aggravated assault. Because he's a nut. I mean, he thought it was funny. We didn't think it was funny. When somebody points a stolen gun at you, the barrel may be as big around as your finger. But if you're on the receiving end, the barrel looks about that big. Okay, here's our next case. And this is where we started until we collected these others overnight because of the hard work of our folks. We've been working with our partners at Lowe's, JCPenney, Home Depot, and Walmart. There's a new day. And that new day was established when we created a partnership with our business partners and said, look, there's not going to be any more of this shoplifting where you're charged with a misdemeanor, you're given a notice to appear, and allowed to walk out of the store after you steal stuff. We're going to lock you up every time. And the reason for that is clear. In our crime fighting model, we know why they're not in the store stealing. They're other places stealing. And between what they steal at the stores and what they steal other places, this particular group, for the most part, used it for drugs. And heroin was the main drug of choice. However, they were known to use other drugs as well. Tina Morrison is charged with racketeering, a first-degree felony. She's charged with this first-degree felony, and she said that she used the money she made to support a $150 a day heroin habit. Now, what she would do is she would pick up some of these other folks, and especially the four at the bottom. You see, the top four are charged with racketeering because they organized it. It was an organized plan. The bottom four are charged with a variety of thefts and scheming to defraud. They would pick these folks up that were down and out on their luck. One of them actually lived at one of the homeless shelters. Then they would look for them. Tina would take them around to the various stores in an effort to steal. In every video clip we have, do you hear that, criminals? We got you on tape. In every video clip we had, old Tina was there. She didn't miss a one. She was the ringleader. Now, this investigation went on between April and August, but we did take a break for a couple of months. Do you know why? Because we had Tina in jail on other charges. And she told us, she said, while I'm not in jail, I'm out stealing to support my drug habit. And many times they would just, when they stole and then they would cash out their money, they would go buy the heroin or the drug and just divide the drug up as opposed to the cash. They're all Lakeland area people. This is what we call rasperts in life. Okay, these rasperts are just troublemakers, just thieves, just an absolute pain. But it's serious. She's gone from petty theft. They were intentionally keeping the value of the theft on each individual event under $300 because they thought it would always be a misdemeanor, a minor misdemeanor. She failed to recognize the racketeering laws when you create an organized criminal enterprise and then work together with others to steal. The reason it was possible for us to be successful is because of our corporate partners. And it is remarkable of how well we work together. Now, I want to give a little warning here. We know that the holiday season is fast approaching, and we know there's some thieves that are watching your news broadcast. I know it comes as a shock to you, but it's true. Listen to me. You're on tape. Our corporate partners are watching you, and we're going to lock you up. Merry Christmas. Keep your sticky fingers out of the stores and quit stealing unless you want to be eating pressed turkey and pressed ham on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Because we're working with them, because our police function, our crime fighting model is we know if they're not stealing out of the stores, they're stealing out of the neighborhoods, and a lot of them are stealing to support a drug habit. You know that minor nonviolent event that some people want you to think is occurring? Willie Solomon just got out of prison. He was a pimp and was pimping ladies on Backpage. These are experienced criminals, experienced thieves, and they consciously try to fly under the radar by keeping low volumes and amounts of their theft. Well, it didn't work this time because, once again, my ORC detectives are the best in the business, and we've partnered with our retail outlets. Okay, now there's going to be someone that goes, well, you know, it's just shoplifting, and it's like the poor people who are victims of using drugs. All right, you need to get a clue too. This is a $48 billion a year industry stealing from our stores. Let me say that again for those of you who didn't catch it. It is a $48 billion a year industry to steal from stores. And here's a newsflash. The stores are passing that 48 billion along to us, the consumers, that are going in there and legitimately, legally buying. So we're all being ripped off, not just the stores, because the stores can't take that kind of loss and stay in business, so they pass it along. So when we stop them from stealing out of the stores, when we stop the store shrinkage, when we slow it down, we're saving us all money. And beside that, do you want to be in a store shopping with a bunch of hooligans in there? I don't want my family in there. And these stores make sure it's safe to shop. And they don't allow them to be in there. We put them in the county jail. Anything else? Any questions?
I want to understand the mechanism by which they did this. When I read the release, I thought that they would steal something, bring it up to the desk, and then get a gift card. But they would show ID. Was that the right ID? Would they show their own ID? And then they would use the gift card to buy something, take it to a pawn place, and then put their fingerprint down. Am I missing something here?
No, you're not. You're not missing anything. You know, I didn't tell you these people were Rhodes Scholars. You know, these are Rasperts. There's a difference. I mean, when they'll steal out of a store, take it up to exchange it, give them the right ID, take their gift card, go someplace else, swap it in for cash money. They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about the stores. All they care about is being thieves and fueling a drug habit. You know that minor, nonviolent thing, drugs, that's, by the way, killing them. Look at old Robert Johnson. Robert, they call him Pops. Life's not been good to him. He's not that old. So we talked to him, tried to interview him. He looked us in the eye and he said, you know, I had a head injury 2 years ago and I don't remember nothing. Pops is not all that old.
How old?
I think he's 46, 48, something like that. I mean, he's not very old. He looks like he's 112. You know, so.
And from Polk County.
And yeah. But Pops has been in and out of jail. He's a respite. But make no mistake, these people know. They tried to keep the theft level under the radar to the misdemeanor level. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Yes.
Before you go, we couldn't make it yesterday. I was wondering if you could go ahead and give us a statement on the gun control and your stand on that.
Yeah. First off, there were some stations that ran a banner that said gun control, just as you mentioned. Let me tell you something. You're looking at a Second Amendment proponent, a Second Amendment supporter. I think that good, honest citizens who care enough to learn how to handle guns ought to have one in every pocket. I'm for that. What I said yesterday had nothing to do with gun control and everything to do with devices that were being designed, manufactured, imported, created to make semi-automatic or normal legal firearms to function as if they were fully automatic firearms. And so that's why it's important to understand there is no useful purpose in those bump stocks, and there are other devices as well that allows the same exact thing. That's what I think the Congress needs to regulate, and regulate immediately. Let me take that a step further. Before I publicly took that position and did my press release, I talked to a lot of folks that are gun lovers, okay? They don't just own a gun. Arguably, one of the fellas, I'm not sure he could get all the guns he owns in this room. And he and the others told me there is no reason to have these bump stocks or other devices to make a semi-automatic or a normal firearm to function as if it's an automatic. They agreed. I talked to 2 licensed firearm dealers. They said the exact same thing. I can tell you the reasonable, rational people across this community, across this county, across this state and nation understand what they saw clearly that occurred in Vegas. They understand that. They understand it was a horrific act. The initial information coming out from the news is that the suspect used automatic weapons and or these devices to make a semi-automatic weapon act as an automatic weapon. Regardless of the outcome of that investigation, and I'm not speculating upon it, it brought to light this device that you put on a legal firearm to make it function as if it's an illegal firearm. So, my position is clear. I'm not advocating, I am not N-O-T advocating for gun control. What I'm advocating for first is criminal control. And the second thing I'm advocating is that these devices be regulated and taken away from people. Now, what's interesting about that, I had some people on Facebook say, oh, you're changing your position. You're not a Second Amendment supporter anymore. You know, despite all my statements to the contrary. Well, I sent up another statement. I said, well, I guess I'm in good company because the NRA took the same position I did yesterday. So if I'm no longer a supporter of the Second Amendment, neither is the NRA. There is absolutely no reason for those devices out here in the hands of people that are wanting to usurp current federal law, period. And if Congress doesn't weigh it down with other political positions and they don't pile on it, it's clearly something that can be supported on both sides of the aisle. In fact, 2 very staunch Republican congressmen, I talked to Dennis Ross, who is a friend of mine. He said, Grady, I not only support it, I'll file legislation. Send it to me. Tom Rooney says, Grady, he didn't say it directly to me through his aide because he was in a minute. If Dennis Ross is for it and Grady Judd's for it, then I'm for it. So we have a position here that if Congress will act and show some adult leadership, we can get this done. Okay, thank you all very much.